own the race course. If you don't have a place to send people through your own race course, your own website, then where are you sending them?
Hey there, I'm Charlie, your online business manager and WordPress expert. My goal is to assist small to medium business owners build their businesses with a focus on using the internet and online technologies in an appropriate and cost-effective manner. People hire me to take the stress out of managing their businesses and allow themselves to focus on what they do best. I have a guest today. Another Australian. So you guys are going to have the double dose of Australian accents here. Rick Nuske, I think I pronounced that
You
correctly,
got it. Yes.
believes the rate of failure in small to medium businesses is both unacceptably high and largely avoidable. He also believes that with a little bit of help, small to medium-sized businesses can achieve much better results. I've got to say, I agree. I believe that he believes that it's his obligation to help increase the survival rate by sharing everything he knows about getting results online. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, hey, Rick, how you doing?
I'm very well, Charlie. Thank you very much for having me here today. It's a pleasure joining you.
Oh, look, I'm just so pleased that I could find an Australian who wanted to come and have a chat. Now, if I'm right, you're on the other side of the country to me, aren't you? You're in
Uh,
Western Australia?
no, well, I'm in Adelaide. I'm in McLaren Vale, the McLaren Vale wine region,
Oh,
and
now I'm jealous.
and it's a dangerous place to live, that's for sure.
I can imagine. Best fortifieds in Australia. That's what I
And what's
reckon.
worse is my wife works in chocolate, so the two combined is really, really bad for us.
Oh no. Oh no. Sounds fantastic. Well, thanks so much for coming aboard. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Because that was a pretty well, I'm not going to say it was bland. It was a very high overview of who you are.
Yes,
Tell us a
absolutely.
little bit more about yourself, how you come into doing this, and why you believe what you believe.
Well, look, my name's Rick Nuske. I'm an Australian. As mentioned, I live in South Australia, a place called McLaren Vale. I'm a former executive manager who was working in the oil and gas industry some 11 years ago now. It's the last time I held a typical role as a manager. I, since that time, have started the family, obviously, with my wife. We've had two young boys, and I actually wanted to stay home and be a full-time dad. I didn't have the same sort of experience for the most part, and I wanted to be sure that I could be there for my boys as they were growing up, which was probably the most rewarding yet the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, Charlie. And to the day, it's still continuing on. But the problem with all of that is that being I guess, a bit of a business person, I like to stay involved, and I had an itch to scratch. And for about 4 or 5 years, I was comfortable, playing the role of full-time dad, and again, a great experience. But I really needed to get back into the fray. I wanted to do something, and I knew that I could. I certainly have enough skills and qualifications, experience to do it. Um, but I just didn't know how I could do it while staying at home. And this is where the whole my journey started, because I began going to live events, and everything from digital marketer to super fast business events. And when I started to speak with James Shrenko, he was the trigger for me, because in actual fact, what happened is that I attended one of his events, and they were talking about podcasting. I thought to myself, what is this podcasting thing? I had no idea. Was this radio? Is that what this was? And I didn't realize the subtle differences until I sort of looked at it closer. And long story short, Charlie, my first guest was actually James Shrenko, and that's where it all started.
Fantastic.
And I
Well,
tell you
that's a
what,
name people in Australia know, I'm afraid, James Shrenko.
yeah, well, he's fairly well known in the online space for coaching and that type of thing. As is Ryan Dice for digital marketer. I've been to his events, and
Hmm.
um, you know, there's so many people that are so influential for me in this space. And after interviewing James, I realized that, hey, look, there could be something here. And one thing led to another. I kept going. I learned from James. I got some more advice about, different equipment, all the sort of standard stuff you go through when you're just starting out. Then I slowly but surely formulated this idea for the My Future Business show with a background in business and being an author. I thought maybe I could do something in that space. And, 11 years almost to the day, here we are.
So you mentioned you have your own podcast, My Future Business. Is that right?
No, the business is a registered trademark business and operates around the world. The My Future Business Show is the name of the podcast.
Okay, cool. So you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yep,
And
absolutely.
I'm sure we'll have some more questions come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, I do believe wholeheartedly that small to medium-sized businesses get the short end of the stick, and with a little bit of help through podcasting, I've found is that you can use podcast marketing. It's essentially podcasting to create a system behind the conversations that you have that entice people to be attracted naturally and not sold to, and therefore make their way to your business to learn more about it. Which I think, if you compare them to typical PPC campaigns that you may run today, you'll find that the cost to acquire a customer or even a lead is exorbitant when compared to a podcast interview that you can do, which is essentially evergreen content, just depending on what you say, can be evergreen content, which for me, the value for money proposition there far exceeds any pay-per-click marketing that I've ever done. So one thing led to another. I started off, like I said, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago now. And initially it was just, I was testing the waters, and then one thing led to another. And then I had somebody came to me and said, look, I'm happy to, pay you for an interview. It never occurred to me, Charlie, to sort of look at this as a true business offering. And to me, self-employment, it's about you doing all the work by yourself. You're self-employed. But I engaged Christy, who is my offsider, and she now works for me full time. She's been with me for many years, and yeah, it's a pay for interview service that we run that creates assets for our customers all around the world.
Well, there you go. And that's something I'd never actually considered doing myself. So there you have it.
Yeah,
I
well,
certainly remember in the early days of online marketing and internet marketing, one of the things that people were saying is you do interviews with your clients that helps them get their content. That's how you get your copywriting done, and that sort of thing. But I'd never actually considered charging to do it. So there you go.
there you go. Well, look, it's certainly a polarizing conversation that you have with many people, because I think there's this almost two thought patterns that go on. This should be a free for all sort of opportunity when everybody knows full well that they are there to market and promote themselves, whereas others like me have turned it into a true profession that actually brings a great deal of value and sets it up with additional traditional funnels that back up the core. So they go away with not only assets, but a whole host of other things as well.
So, do you want to have a chat about those sorts of things? Because that sounds interesting. I think, in fact, before we get to that, why don't we talk about you mentioned that the rate of failure for small to medium businesses is unacceptably high, and that there didn't need to be. Let's have a chat about why we think it's unnaturally high or unacceptably high, because I
Unacceptably
do
high.
tend to agree. Yeah.
Well, the fact is that there's an attrition rate of those businesses that are lucky enough through hard work, slogging it out, that make it to 5 years, are going to end up ultimately within the next 5 years also closing. So we're talking about 90, 95, 99% of the businesses that start out are failing. And it got me to thinking, well, what can I do to change this? Now, if a small business owner is already struggling to find the finance to maintain operations, hire employees, take care of their overheads. They may have sites to pay for, rent, all this sort of stuff that goes with running a business. And we're talking any type of industry sector. So I thought to myself, well, what can I do to reduce those overheads? And that's where the idea of bringing them on board and giving them evergreen content in the form of an interview would certainly reduce that paid marketing component, which you find, you can
Right.
spend $50 a day and not get anything for it. And I thought, I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, yeah, and that's actually one of the biggest things. I used to run retail, bricks and mortar retail stores, and
Hmm.
it didn't matter. I mean, our profit margin was very slow to begin with, very low to begin with, which was not a great model, I will
Yep.
say. But we had great turnover. So that was the balance of it, is really high turnover, lower profit. You should be able to manage until the market slows down and disposable income and discretional income stops,
Yep.
discretional spending
Yep.
stops. And back in 2007, discretional spending stopped
Oh yeah.
overnight.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially with the with all the residential crash in 2008, there would have been a compounding impact of that reduced spending, I would have
There
thought.
absolutely was. We saw the ramp up of it. Whatever the Australian government was doing at the time, it really affected us. And then the GFC hit, and I shut the doors.
Yep.
I walked away. I won't say how
Yep.
much in money we owed at that point, but we owed an awful lot of
It was
money.
enough.
Um, and really, what got me while I was running those businesses is the marketing. I was really good at marketing. But you go to someone, you say, look, I want to run some ads. I want to run some radio ads. Oh, well, that's $1,200 a month. Well, I don't have $1,200 a month spare. I just
Yep.
don't.
Yep.
That's money I should be paying myself to put food on the table. I
Agreed.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
taking the food off my table to market my business. So I got really clever at some of the things I did. If this sort of thing existed when I was doing my business, I would have been sweet.
Yes. Well, look, and this was a gradual learning curve for me because I didn't see the wood for the trees, as they say, because I didn't know there was an opportunity until that one person came to me and said, "Look, I'm more than willing to take care of this financially if there's overheads that you have." And I thought, well, let's not think about that too much. What's the benefit to you? And this individual went away with an evergreen set of tools, both in audio and video format, and a number of other assets that we provide, and that continues a decade later. It's just been an honor for
That's
me. It really has.
fantastic. Okay, so I mean, you're talking a little bit more there than just about running a podcast and doing an interview and throwing it up on your channel, like I'm about to do,
Mm.
which is that's still a great way to promote my business, and it helps you promote yours. There's a lot more to what you're proposing there than what we're about to do today with this interview. So, can you dig down a little into
Yeah,
that for
absolutely.
me?
There's obviously you have your distribution. This is a content first strategy. This is a long-term strategy. And, through my book, Welcome to the Show 1.0, the complete podcasting system for your business, which I'd like to offer a free copy for all of your listeners at the end of the call, if that's okay.
That is absolutely okay. I'm first in line for it.
Absolutely, yeah, no problems at all. In that book, you'll see that there's basically 9 sections, and it's essentially replicating it. It mirrors the entire My Future business that we use to help promote only our own show directly, but obviously the guests' businesses as well. So there's a lot of people that come to the business which they're really good at what they do inside the business, but they're not necessarily good at distribution. They're not good at video shorts. They're not good at video creation. They're not good at editing. They're not good at. I'm not a WordPress builder. I have somebody who builds our site, but there's that component too. You have to have obviously a place to live. And one thing I did learn from James, for example, is that own the race course. If you don't have a place to send people through your own race course, your own website, then where are you sending them? So I talk about risk mitigation. So if you, for example, said, the only place I have online is a Facebook group, well, what happens when Facebook go, not too happy about this anymore, we're shutting down shop on this, whatever the topic is, then you don't have a race course to send your horses. So it's important to own the race course. It's important to enforce that through a system of lead acquisition and conversion, which is your typical funnel sort of stuff. But where I come in and provide additional values, I talk about the experiences that I have, because you can't buy those. And, little things that'll help people get themselves set up for, pennies on the dollar, as opposed to some people that I see go out, even though they've got significantly sized businesses, good revenue, good cash flow, they can get set up for far less than what they do. So yeah, it's a very deep and meaningful conversation we could have, which could take a couple of hours to get through all of the different things. You've obviously got, for those who are just starting out on their podcasting journey, a launch process, for example. Who's actually thought about doing a launch? A lot of people start a podcast, throw it up on YouTube, and sit and wait, and they wait for those numbers to improve. There has to be an active, you have to actively pursue a defined strategy, a defined process for getting eyeballs on your offer. So that's a bit of a touch on that part of it.
Yeah, I like that. And yeah, you said something there that really resonated with me, and that's own the race course. And that's something that I have preached from day dot. Is like, I don't care if Facebook is free. I don't care if Instagram is free. I don't care if you can put your shopping carts on there. By all means, do that. But make sure you have somewhere that you can connect with your clients when it all goes south. And it will. I mean, what happened about 12 months ago? Facebook lost its platform, and it was 24 hours before they got it back. And
Oh, yeah.
people were screaming because their customers couldn't get in touch with them.
Yep.
Well, that shouldn't be your only channel to market. It really shouldn't.
Well, I've got a belief that, you should have multiple modes of redundancy. You should be available on multiple platforms. It may not be, for example, that your primary audience lives on LinkedIn, but if you can be contacted via LinkedIn and people know you're there saying, hey, look, your website's down, or I can't get access to your directory, or your community site's gone down, then make it policy within your business to make that the final port of call if they need to contact you in an emergency. And that's happened before. That's for sure.
It absolutely does happen. And I know myself, it's like, well, they're not answering their phone, their emails are bouncing.
Oh, yeah.
I need to get in touch with them. Okay, I'll send them a messenger, a Facebook messenger, or Instagram, or I'll slide into a DM somewhere on one of the platforms and see which one comes back with a bite.
Yep.
And I've taken that view myself with my own business. Is I'm on all platforms bar TikTok. As much as I don't want to be on all the platforms, and I don't actively pursue all the platforms, you can contact me there. You can follow me. You can find out where I am.
Yeah.
And it works well.
It's an interesting point that you make about not being on every platform, because you don't really want to be on all the platforms. You just need to choose one that's a fail-safe for you, the last port of call that you train your community, your audience, your customers, your clients, to know that if all else fails, I will be available here, 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 and here. But, that brings me to the conversation of, knowing your customer or knowing your audience. Where are they typically going to be found? You don't need to be everywhere. If you go to TikTok and they're all younger generations and you're serving Gen X or, Gen Y, then maybe you're not going to find them there, and there may not be any validity there. But that's a matter for, for the individual business owner, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about these assets, and once someone comes to you and using all of this, you said there's video and audio. Can we just go a little bit further into that? I'm not asking you to give away the secrets.
No, look, you're going to find most of them inside of Welcome to the Show anyway, so I'm more than happy to share them. A large part is being able to use these assets, because too many podcasts, in my opinion, withhold what I believe is rightfully the guest's property. They keep audio and video for themselves and only distribute it on their channel and give the guest just a link to share. When I've decided that it's better to buy the technology that I had to use, or Christy has to use, to create the edits, the assets, and then distribute those assets so they can use them on their own channels. But then there's also a lot of work that I do one-on-one. I do a lot of one-on-one work, and I don't advertise that. That's off the screen. I don't actively need to promote that. But that makes up a big part of what I do, because my former background is senior management in HR, in quality management, systems, processes, a whole range of different things that business owners are also looking for that will complement ultimately the way that they run their podcast marketing. So, for example, if they have a business which requires a quality system, we dovetail that in with the way that they run their podcast marketing. They will know by the end of the time that I've worked with them that there is a system in place. They will take that system and they will use that system, and they will modify and improve it as they need to, if they need to. But every person I work with is completely different in terms of their needs. Some already come with a great system and we just dovetail into those existing systems. But by the end of the day, they also have the opportunity to walk away with, like I said earlier, video shorts is one of the assets, a PDF creation, transcripts, and the list goes on, which they can all be found on our interview FAQ page.
And that's really, really important stuff. And it's something that when I started my podcast was, oh, I need to do shorts. That's right. And I had to go back through all of my old videos and do the shorts for those. Now, as I'm editing, I just cut the shorts out. So that's a short and that's a short.
Yep.
And I have it all marked out as I go through. So by the time I'm finished the editing session, I've got them all. But people don't think about it.
No, they don't.
People don't think about transcripts.
What I would think about if anybody's listening to this and they're thinking about doing the likes of videos, shorts or transcripts is there's great software out there. And this is a trick for young players who are inexperienced, maybe got limited funds. Go to AppSumo. If you want to buy something once and use it forever, that's a great place to start.
Yep.
I know it works because I'm still using stuff that I purchased more than 10 years ago in the business. So if you want to save money, you want to bootstrap this, as they say, you can do it. It's just like buying equipment. I don't want you to spend big bucks. You can go to Facebook Marketplace, and until you know for sure and certain that you're going to use podcasting as a long-term strategy in your business, buy secondhand. These are the things that people don't think about. They go ahead and they go, I'm going to buy $1,000 Rode 12-channel mixing board, and I'm going to have 5 microphones in the room. And 3 months later, I've talked about this in my book, I saw the same person regrettably selling that kit that they spent over $1,200 on for less than half the price, just trying to recoup their losses because they were no longer interested. So, small baby steps, I think you need to take, and how much money you spend does matter.
Yep. And honestly, it's some of the things that people are trying to sell you. And there's these big price tickets on. Shop it around. You will be surprised what you can pick up when you start looking. I think I didn't actually go out all the way. I don't even have a lighting system. My next thing will be like a ring light to go on my computer so that I can get lit up properly.
Yep.
But I bought, the most important thing to me was my microphone and getting good sound. I didn't care about anything else because the sound was the thing that was killing me. I think I paid $79 US for my microphone, and that was 18 months ago, and I'm still using it. And I'm going to use it, I've decided, until it falls apart, and then I'll work out what I get next. Because you just don't need all of the stuff to start with.
And I think going back to the assets that people have when they join me on the My Future Business show is access to me. Because you can claim to be a host, but if you don't know how to bring out the best in your audience, in your guest, then you've got to start questioning how good you are as a host. But the same applies to the guest who wants to start their own show, which is another form of coaching that I provide, which provides them the opportunity to learn podcasting without it ever being distributed. So they're doing it in a safe environment. So we talk about all of these things because there are too many. One thing I don't do is pre-call conversations, and we have a fake interview online, and that sort of never gets done that way. We do have an interview, but it's recorded and we share it between each other, and that's it. So there's that component to it as well. But because so many people are very nervous when they have they're not experienced and they're not comfortable with technology, let's say, whereas others are like fish to water. They just lap it up. They're great in front of the camera. So you get both sides, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I do like your idea of not what'd you say?
Distributing it?
Or doing the pre-call before
Yeah.
you do the interview. I had one host insist that I do a pre-interview with them, and I'm like, what
Who's got
for?
time for that?
What for? Oh, well, then we can decide what you're going to talk about. Like, well, I know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah. Well, look, again, like I mentioned, Charlie, there's 9 parts to the book, and it's reflective of the My Future Business show process for their guests, as well as the same process we use. And one of those steps is to, after the call is done and dusted, edited and distributed, it's actually making it count. This is where we talk about the engagement. This is where we talk about the social media follow-up. Again, we talk about technology because there's technology can track mentions and that type of thing. And these are not expensive options, which would void my point of trying to save money when you're starting out. But they're out there. There are easy ways to be notified that, hey, look, somebody's made a comment on your feed, beyond you having to look at it all the time, which can be a painful thing if you've got 20, 30 places that you distribute calls on. RSS feed's a great thing, but it can be a nightmare too if you're getting negative feedback and you're missing it. So there are those sorts of things that we talk about as well.
Fantastic. Now, if I can just step back a couple of minutes there, you mentioned clients come to you with their own systems, or you set up a system for them. What sort of systems are you talking about? Because I come from the very technical point of view as well as the very business point of view. And people say systems, and my mind goes one of two ways. So I like to clarify what the language
All right.
means.
So there's two parts. There's a standard formal sort of system where we're talking about documents on a page, but we're talking about also funnel systems, which uses technology to acquire, then convert. I do both because I find a lot of people, the small to medium-sized business owners, again, they're resource poor. Fortunately for them, I was a national manager for quality systems for many, many years. And I can bring that side to the business, which they're not aware of. And that's where I take the opportunity right at the end of each interview to have that conversation. And then it sparks another conversation, some email trail and that sort of thing. But also the mere fact that we set up an opportunity to capture attention is one thing. Then take that attention and say, hey, look, here's a book. In my case, welcome to the show. Take that, gives your email, a standard sort of conversion into a lead. Then from that point, the nurturing process, this is not new stuff. But what it does say is it said, you just chucking your interview up online is not enough. You have to have the skill, the experience. You've got to know how to bring out the best in your guest. When you've decided that you now want to run your own show, which a lot of people do. So there's a lot of steps involved in this, Charly.
Well, I'm really, really glad you said that, actually, because the thing that I find when I'm working with my clients is the ability to take something from someone who's interested in what you've got through to, what is it? It's a cold client, it's a cold prospect to a warm client, to a hot client, to a sale. You've got to have that process in place, and you've got to have a way of tracking it through. So, people will say, oh, you need a CRM. Well, yes, but what type of CRM do you need for your business is the sort of question you've got to ask, because some of them are very expensive and you don't need everything that they offer.
No, absolutely
Sometimes
not.
you can start small and build on it to say, right now I can use this module, and let's activate that module and start paying for that module that we're now going to start using. So It's really refreshing to hear people talking about that, because bootstrapping's been something that I've been very fond of since I started. As I said, running a business when you've got very low margin, and very high turnover, bootstrapping is very, very important.
Yep. And can I just add, I saw your community, I really like it. I was in there before, and that actually forms out one part of the book is about building your community, because, a lot of people won't be ready to turn into a client, customer, or patient, depending on which industry you serve. So having somewhere for people who have got you have got their attention, having a place for them to meet up and learn more about you, and being that safe place to share. I mean, yes, it can be a Facebook group, but I know that you've got a dedicated platform, and it's a real credit to you, because, once that, what do they talk about? The steam train. Once it gains that momentum, it's going to be very, very difficult to slow down and stop. So definitely build your community is another massive part of our system as well.
Thank you. And given that you've done that, I'm actually just going to give that a bit of a plug here.
Why not?
The community that Rick is discussing is my locals community, askcharlyleetham.locals.com. Being a business owner can be tough. Being a business owner who works remotely can get lonely and frustrating. That's why I've started this community, a community for business owners that can be a bit like the water cooler of old, somewhere where we can gather, we can shoot the breeze, we can vent frustrations if needed, we can build each other up, we can support each other. I want you to treat my locals community as a place where you not only get to interact with me, but with each other. You can gain inspiration, provide advice, and of course, as supporters, you'll be able to ask questions of me and interact with the content that I'm putting up.
Yep.
Now, to be a supporter, it's $2 US per month. I mean, it's nothing. The idea of charging the $2 US is, one, I know that you're not going to be a spammer or a troll because you want to be there because you're paying that sort of money,
Yep.
which is really nothing. And apart from that, you're helping me keep creating content like this and providing the advice that I provide. So come along and join me at askcharlyleetham.locals.com. Back to us.
Yeah, well, look,
Thank
can I
you
just add,
so
Charlie,
much.
it's well worth that cup of coffee. That's for sure and certain.
Thank you so much. Yeah, look, I like it. And I'm happy to talk to anyone about that platform. When we say it's a dedicated platform, it is run by another organization
Yep.
who saw a failing in the marketplace where what's the word? Censorship was occurring and things
Ah,
couldn't get said, and
yep.
people would say things and share things, and oh no, we can't have that on this platform, so your group is banned, or you're restricted from your group, or you can no longer post on the platform because we disagree with what you're saying.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't necessarily happen in my industry, it doesn't necessarily happen in your industry, but it could do.
Yeah.
And you never know when it's going to hit. And this is again about you own the racetrack.
Yep.
Well, they said, no, this is our community. We are not ever going to do that. That's one of their guarantees to us. They said we'll never, ever do that. So no matter what as long as we're not breaking the law, I'll
No,
rephrase
absolutely not. Yeah,
that.
no. Well, I
They won't ever do that. And that's why I went there, because I just didn't want to have all those
have all
hassles
those
later on.
issues. Well, I have
Yeah.
to say, there's another part to this process. Again, the more we talk, the more I think about it, and it's relevant now to share it, Charlie, because at the end of the day, we do pre-screening. We have an application process. We have forms on our website that people will go to the interview FAQ page and they'll say, look, this is right for me. I'd like to apply. And they choose their type of interview, be it an audio, video, premium. And then they follow that path, whatever path they choose. And then I get to flag if they choose a certain word, and this is part of the system. If they choose a certain word, then they're automatically excluded from the interview. And there's a lot of excluded words, but it makes life easier when you have that type of system that relies on technology. So there's another little tidbit.
Yeah. Yeah, and and that's fine. You can absolutely do that, but that becomes your thing for your community, and it's not someone else in
Yeah.
putting their views on you,
Yeah.
which I'm all for. I think that's great, but that's
Mm.
why I went there.
Yeah, no, I think you've
So,
done really well.
oh, thank you. Well, hopefully I will see you over there as well
Oh,
at some
absolutely.
point.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's just go on a little bit further. We've spoken about how podcasting and interviews and podcasting and digital and audio assets can help.
Yep.
What does a business owner need to do if they want to do that? I mean, okay, they can go to your website and fill out the form and go through that process, but what sort of things do they need to think about having ready before they come to you, or as they come to you and are getting themselves ready for their interview?
I always, well, let me start again. I will often receive applications out of the blue without any preconceived ideas of what the interviews are. And retrospectively, Charlie, what I find out through conversation after a call is that they had watched a number of the previous interviews of the show. So having that trail of assets on your own channel, think about it as that person who was a guest. Now they're running your own show. Once you create that library of assets in the form of audio and video, that gives you a pointer to send your ideal customer, client, and patient to have a look to get an idea of what the expectations of the show are. And oftentimes they will still come to me. So that's where the interview FAQ page helps. And it sets out the minimum equipment requirements, the requirement, or it's not a requirement, but it's a preference not to use Wi-Fi, because if you want a choppy, unreliable, low-quality connection and interview result, go Wi-Fi. But if not, use high-speed internet with Ethernet connection, Now that's becoming the standard across Australia and pretty much everywhere else in the world. So there's that to think about. And if they've never done it before, again, I'm hesitant to do a pre-call, but what I do is I'll give them 5 minutes prior to the live interview just to settle in. And one of the strategies I use is that there are 3 parts to my interviews. The first part talks about them and their enjoyments, their hobbies, their passions, outside of their work, outside of their book, outside of their venture. And when I do this, what tends to happen is they drop their guard and they feel comfortable, they feel safe. I ask them to talk about childhood experiences, for example. What can you remember about growing up that you can share with us? And by the end of that section, say, hey, look, it's time to segue into the core of the call now. Let's talk about X, whatever the topic is. And by then you've got that momentum. So that's where I think the skill as a host comes in. And I didn't have this when I first started. I've had to hone that experience, hone that skill just through repetition. We're nearing 1,000 interviews now. So if I'm not good at it by now, maybe I should give up.
Let's just remember too that we're always improving as we go along.
Oh, yes, continuous improvement is always the thing.
And as I said to you when we started this, it's like, I'll try not to mess it up. But,
you're doing wonderfully well.
The thing that I like to do about it is when I make a mistake, it's like, oh, let's just laugh that off. And
look, can I just say on that very point, we're humans. We're not supposed to be, robots. We're not supposed to be perfect. I think that authenticity, that willingness to be vulnerable, and sometimes, I'm moved to tears by some of the things that my guests are sharing with me, and it's genuine because people have lives outside of this screen that we're talking on now, and I value that opportunity. And I think that's one thing everybody can take away is that appreciate the golden opportunity that you're having to connect with somebody else that you don't know. It's such an amazing experience. That's why I love doing it.
Oh, fantastic. And yeah, you're right. We're not robots. We are human. And to err is human. As my dad once said to me, to err is human, and to really screw things up takes a computer.
We learned that earlier today, didn't we?
Oh, wow. Just to give some people some idea, we were going to do this on another platform. I had it all set up.
Yep.
We had problems, and I went, okay, no worries. We've got Zoom. Let me send you a Zoom link. We are just going to reset it, and we'll just start from there. Worked perfectly.
Yep, absolutely.
You've got to be able to do it and breathe and take our time. I do like your idea of breaking it into segments, like you do your introduction and you have a bit of a chat, let people settle in. I don't know if I'm a great host. I try to be, and then move into what you're going to talk about. That's the same when you're doing a sales call. It's the same when you are out at a trade show talking to people. I hate going out to those things, and I hate going out to the pop-ups that are in the malls where they say, buy our insurance. Like, no.
No. Well, this is the thing. Podcasting doesn't force you to buy anything. Podcasting is there to educate you, and podcasting should have a call to action in the last part of that sort of process that I talked about, but it does it in a stylish way. It does it without being forceful. You don't have to buy a thing from me. If what I'm offering you helps you solve a problem that you're having, and it doesn't matter. I mean, this is why I have so many different types of people on the My Future Business Show, from mining execs through to book authors and everybody in between. They join me on the show because they have something to share, and not once have they said, oh, buy my stuff. They've said, if you want more information, just go here. And then we look at the numbers because the numbers count.
Yep. And so that then comes back to one of my questions earlier about what does a business need to prepare to be interviewed or to want to be interviewed. If you don't know, that's okay. But what you will know about your business, guys, is what your business is, what you are in the business to do, what your business does, who your ideal client is, what it is you're trying to, in inverted commas, sell. And once you've got all that, find someone like Rick, like myself, like Rick, who can work with you to bring that all out, because you don't have to be expert in it. There are other people that are experts in it.
And you can watch 100 different podcasts and you'll take 100 different things away from different hosts. There is no such thing as a perfect host. Again, they're human, just like you and I. But there are different hosts that I will observe and watch closely. And I think if there's one thing that I would have listeners take away, Charlie, is that curiosity. Be curious as a host. Ask questions more so than you share your own experiences, because at the end of the day, the guest wants to be there to talk about themselves. So that's what I focus on.
Tell you what, that's a challenge for it's a challenge for me. It's a
Challenge for
challenge
me
for
too.
others at
Trust me.
times.
For me to
But
shut up and listen, it's very difficult. But that's a skill as a host. If you can nail that, it'll change the world.
I do like that though. Be curious, and people love to talk about themselves. I mean,
Of course
think
I do.
about going to a party and you say to someone, "Tell me about your work," or "Tell me about this
Yeah.
passion of yours."
Yeah.
I can go to a party and not say a word.
Just give me a drink. I'll sit in the corner.
Wonderful.
I just want it to be quiet. It's amazing when I get off the podcast and my kids want my time and they start wanting me to talk again. I said, I've done enough talking today. What do you need?
Yeah. Okay. So, I was going to ask you, what's the one thing you want people to take away from today's call? And you mentioned curiosity.
Yes, be curious. Absolutely. I'd say be curious. And, if you want to do this, you don't need to spend big bucks. You just need to invest in secondhand equipment. And if you want to learn, just watch other people and model their success. Because at the end of the day, when I started, I was nowhere near, I guess, the skill set that I am today, and I'm far from where I want to be. So there's that continuous improvement ethos that you need to adopt as well. And the moment that you woke up one day and say, I'm the best at this, is the day you need to give it up. So there's be curious, don't overinvest, be certain that you have a plan to get the most out of your podcasting journey. But also, I would ask if I can mention it, Charlie, if they would like a copy of the book. This will really spell it out in some detail. So I'd like to make that available, the Welcome to the Show 1.0, the complete podcasting system for your business in one book.
Fantastic. And I was just about to ask you, so we will put those details up in the show notes so people know where to get a hold of it.
Yep.
But how do people get in touch with you, and how do they find out more about the Welcome to the Future Business Show?
No. It's there's a lot of ways. Just type in my name, Rick Nuske. It's RICKNUSKE. You're bound to stumble across me somewhere on the internet, or type in My Future Business, which is the name of the business. Or if you go to myfuturebusiness.com, that's our website. Or if you type in the My Future Business Show, that's another option. But myfuturebusiness.com is probably a really good place to start.
Sounds fantastic. So I'm going to put all of this in the show notes for people, because goldfish brain. Look at castle. Well, the ADD of the internet, what can I say? Too much going on. But yeah, I will put them all in the show notes for people so we can get in touch with you. I will absolutely promote that book offer, because that's very, very generous of you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
And from there, I'm just thinking, no, we're good. What I'd like to remind people to do is like this video, subscribe to my channel, and ring the notification bell so you find out when I drop more content. If you are listening or watching this on a place that will allow you to do reviews, please leave a review. A good one would be nice. 5 stars. I love 5 stars.
Absolutely.
But if you could, that would be great. I do appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone who comes along and listens and watches. I'm very, very grateful to you. And Rick, I'm grateful to you as well for being a guest today, and I wish you all the best.
It's been an absolute pleasure joining you on your show today, and all the best for everything that you're going to be doing in the future. Thanks again.
Thanks, Rick. And guys, I will see you next week with hopefully another guest.